Hey friends, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud, where we experience the world through the lens of babbling. Friends, I was thinking maybe we can make our slogan a little bit more dramatic. Instead of using lens, we can use prism. We experience the world through the prism of babbling. It sounds like a very official slogan. Babylon Talmud. Experience the world through the prism of babbling. That sounds like something I want to be part of. Friends, today we're going to learn Daf Nun Ches of Masechta Ksubis. And, so we talk about Mizonis and Truma and Chulin and that kind of stuff, fun stuff. And then we get to a new Mishnah, which talks about Hektish and stuff, and that's I wouldn't say it's easy. Let me tell you, we've learned Masechta Yevamis. Friends, we're going to start in Daf Nun Ches of Masechta Ksubis. 4 lines into the page. So we saw machlokas in the Mishnah between Reb Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva, that if 12 months comes and the husband is stalling, the fiancé, the chosin, that's more geschmack. What do you want, a fiancé or a chosin? Well, it depends what you're looking for, I guess. If you're looking for something geschmack, I guess go for chosin. If you're looking for something more official, you probably want a fiancé. Alright. Well, so if the chosin, a chosin delays, a fiancé is on time. So if the chosin is delaying, so he already has to pay for her food, for mizonis. Now we say if she's a bas koyin, if he's a koyin, so then Reb Tarfon says he can give her entirely truma, and when she's a nida and she's tamei and she can't eat the truma, she could sell the truma to buy chulin. And Reb Akiva says that you give 50-50. You give half truma, half chulin, so that when she's a nida, she eats the chulin, and when she's teora, she eats the truma. So now, Omer Abai, says Abai, machlokas bebas koyin the koyin. This machlokas between Reb Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva is specifically a bas koyin who's marrying a koyin. So meaning she grew up eating truma. And therefore, if he gives her entirely truma, she already knows what to do. She's grown up eating truma. Her father will go and sell the truma for her and purchase chulin, and then she can eat that. Like, she's used to the system. If you have a bas Yisrael who's marrying a kohen, and all of a sudden she's allowed to eat truma now because she's going to be married to a kohen, but she didn't grow up eating truma, and she's still in her father's house, right? She didn't get married yet. The 12 months are up. It's time to get married. The chosin is delaying. But all of a sudden she starts getting truma. So then, in that case, she doesn't really have experience like selling truma to buy chulin when she's a nida. So divrei hakol mechza chulin mechza truma. Everyone would agree, even Reb Tarfon would agree that you give 50% truma and 50% chulin. Fine. So that when she's a nida, she can eat the chulin. She doesn't have to worry about selling truma. V'amar Abai, and says Abai machlokas ba'arusa. Now this machlokas is dafka when she is engaged, and therefore she's at her father's house, and her father can go and sell the truma for her. And present her with chulin. But if she's married and for whatever reason she's not with her husband and he's providing mizonis for her, so he would provide 50% truma and 50% chulin, because in that way she wouldn't have to, as a married woman, she wouldn't have to go out selling the truma in order to buy chulin. Meaning, so when she's engaged and she's still at her father's house, so her father can go out and sell the truma for her. But when she's already married, so then he would give her chulin for when she's a nida rather than truma that she would have to go out and sell. There's like some kind of background noise that is distracting me, but hopefully it's gone. Yeah, I'm a very easily distracted fellow. Taninam Yochel, we also learn in a brisa like this. Reb Tarfon says, Reb Tarfon nosnin lo hakol truma. That Reb Tarfon says that the chosin can give her entirely truma. Rabbi Kiva Omer mechza chulin and mechza truma, whereas Rabbi Kiva says it's 50% chulin and 50% truma, so that when she's a nida, she can eat the chulin. Bamid v'amemurim, when do we say it's b'vas koyin l'koyin? This is by a bas koyin who's marrying a koyin. Aval bas Yisrael l'koyin, divrei hakol mechza chulin and mechza truma. But if a bas Yisrael is marrying a koyin where she doesn't have experience, with what to do with the truma when she's a nida, so then everyone agrees, even Reb Tarfon would agree, that you would give 50% chulin, so when she's in nida, she can eat that. She doesn't have to worry about selling truma. And when do we say this? That by a bas koyin, yeah, you see that noise is back again. I don't even know what it is, but it's a very subtle noise. Somebody's probably knows that I'm recording Babylon Talmud, so they're saying, let's do something really subtle. But seriously, what the heck is that sound? It's like super subtle, just enough to like drive you nuts. Oh, it's also only when I turn to the left. Maybe it's coming from the air conditioner. Okay. Maybe I need to put my earplugs tighter. What if I only look to the right? Let me just look to the right. Alright, how's that? So so that's only by, but now what am I doing? I'm looking at the kitchen sink. No, let me turn back. So that's if she's engaged, but if she is married, so then it would be 50% truma, 50% chulin, so she wouldn't have to go out and sell it herself. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Omer says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, so Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira disagrees with Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Akiva had said that he gives her 50% truma, 50% chulin. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says no, it's 2/3 truma and 1/3 chulin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says Rabbi Yehuda nosin la hakol truma. Rabbi Yehuda says that he can give her entirely truma, v'mocheres, and she can sell it v'lokachas b'dam chulin, and buy with the money chulin. Now, what's the nafkamina between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Tarfon? It sounds like both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Tarfon are saying that he can give her entirely truma. The difference is, as Rashi points out, that according to Rabbi Tarfon, truma, you get less money for it than chulin, right? There's a lot more people to buy chulin. There's a lot less people who are able to buy truma, and therefore, right, it's more difficult to sell, and it's you're not going to get as much money for it. So therefore, let's say it's like a minimum wage kind of thing, right? Meaning, so let's say, I don't know, she needs $100 worth of food every week. Now the thing is, when she's a nida, if he gives her entirely truma, when she's a nida, she's not going to be able to eat the truma. She's going to have to sell the truma and then buy with the money chulin. The thing is that she's not going to be able to get as much money for the truma. Because you just can't get as much money for it, and therefore she's not necessarily going to be able to buy. So let's just say at 10 kilos of I don't know, truma, when she sells half of it and buys chulin, she's not going to get 5 kilos worth of chulin. She's going to get less than that, because when she sold the five, right, half of, if she has 10 kilos of stuff, so if she sells half of it, that's 5 kilos. She sells 5 kilos of truma. She's not going to be able to buy 5 kilos of chulin, because chulin is more expensive. So therefore, Reb Tarfon says, look, it doesn't matter. He's not responsible to give sort of 15 kilos, since he knows that, right, that she's going to have to sell some of it for cheaper. No, Reb Tarfon says you give her a normal amount that a person eats, and even if it means that she's going to have to sell part of it and she's not going to be able to buy the same amount back, that's not his responsibility. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, dafka, he's going to have to provide enough food so that even after she sells the truma for a lower price, she'll still have enough money to be able to buy the same amount of chulin, right, that she would have, right, that she needs. So that's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, kol makom shehuzka truma nosno keflayim bechulin. Whereas Rabbi Gamliel says that actually give her twice as much truma as chulin. My benai, what's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Ika benai tircha. So Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel takes it one step further, which is that whereas Rabbi Yehuda says that he has to give her enough truma so that if she hustles and tries to get the best price that she can get for it, albeit lower than she can get for chulin, because chulin is more expensive than truma, but still she has to try and get the best price that she can for truma, and if she gets sort of the best possible price that she can get for that truma, then she'll have enough money to buy chulin. Whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, give her so much truma that she doesn't even have to worry, she could just sell it even at as cheap as can be, and because you're giving her enough truma to sell, even if she's selling it at so cheap, she'll still have enough money in order to buy chulin. So you have to give her a lot of truma so that she doesn't have to, spend so much time trying to find somebody who's willing to offer her, a top dollar for truma so that she can then buy chulin. No, Shimon Gamliel says, give her enough such that as long as she finds somebody to buy it, with that quantity, she'll have enough money to be able to buy chulin. Let's go weiter. My time, okay, so a yovam, eno meichel b'truma. Oh, so we said that a yovam, right? So if you have a girl was engaged to a boy, and he's a kohen, and then while they're engaged, he dies. So then she's got to do yibum. So that yavam would not be able to give her truma. So while her initial husband would have been able to, her initial chassan would have been able to give her truma, the yavam cannot. My time akom kinin kaspo machmana v'kinin de'achivu. It says by truma that kinin kaspo can eat truma. So like an eved or a woman that he betrothed, but a yavam didn't betroth her. He only got her. They're only together because the first brother died. So it's not kinin kaspo. Also saw shisha chodashim b'fnei abal. So the Mishnah had said that if she spent 6 months with her husband, then he died, and then the yavam came onto the scene. So hasha b'fnei abal omart lo b'fnei yavam ibaya. So we had said that even if you did the entire year, the husband was alive, and on the last day he died, and one day was with the yavam, still the yavam would not be, even though the vast majority of the time was with the husband, still the yavam would not be able to give her truma. So then obviously the next line in the Mishnah, which says that if she was only with the husband for one day and he died, and for the rest of the year she was with the yavam, obviously the yavam would not be allowed to give her truma. So Zovein Tzarech Lo Marzo Katani. So says the Gemara, it's saying this, and it goes without saying that, meaning yes, if the vast majority of the time she was with the husband and then he dies, the yavam would still not be allowed to give her truma. And it goes without saying that if the vast majority of the time she was with the yavam would not be allowed to give her truma. So the Mishnah had said that this concept, that if after a year the chassan is delaying, he then pays her mizonis and he can give her truma, that whole inyan, that was the Mishnah Rishona. That was kind of the initial way that they learned it. But the later rabbis tweaked this halacha and said that actually after the 12 months is not enough. She cannot eat truma until she's nichnus to l'chuppah, right? And Aisha ocheles b'truma ad shetikonis l'chuppah, until she stands under the wedding canopy. So even after the 12 months, she cannot eat truma until she goes under the chuppah. So the question is why? How come the later rabbis decided, you know what? After 12 months is premature, she still cannot eat truma until she goes under the chuppah. At that point, she can eat truma. What was the logic what was the earlier logic? What was the later logic? So my time. So how do we understand this? Amar Ula v'iteimer Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda mishum simpon. So Ula, some say, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda say the reason for the change of for the tweak was out of concern that they might not end up getting married, right? That if after 12 months they don't end up getting married and they break up the engagement, so then she shouldn't have been eating truma. So we wait until the chuppah, and then once already she went under the chuppah, so then we're not concerned about simpon. We're not concerned that he's going to find a woman and call off the marriage at that point, and from that point she can eat truma. So now, so I understand Ula. If you remember the machlokas yesterday at the end of the daf, we saw machlokas between Ula and where am I? And Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. So Ula had said that it was a machlokas about, meaning we had said that mida oraise an arusa can eat truma, because it says kinin kaspo, and once already is mekadisher, so then she can eat truma. However, we say that she doesn't eat truma while she's in arusa. We had two opinions. There was opinion of Ula, who says, well, because since she's still living at her father's house while she's engaged, so then she might, if she has truma around, she might give it to her siblings. And if she's not a bas kohen, if she's a bas Yisrael, so then she might give it to her siblings. And they're not allowed to eat truma. So because she's still living at home, we don't want to be giving her truma because she might end up giving it to her siblings who are not allowed to have. That was Ula's opinion. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda's opinion was that, well, what if he ends up calling off the engagement and breaking up the engagement, which means that she's ultimately not going to be marrying a kohen, which means that retroactively she wasn't allowed to be eating truma. And out of concern for that, we say that she's not allowed to eat truma as in Arusa when she is engaged. Now, I understand these two different mishnayos, right? Meaning that the first mishnah that said that, or the first version that says that once 12 months are up and he starts paying for her food, so then she can start eating truma. So Ula had said that is because at that point the husband is paying for a mizonos and he has like a designated place where she eats, so that, he's paying for the mizonos. He doesn't want anybody else getting them, and since there's a separate space for her to be eating, we're not concerned about the siblings eating the truma, and therefore at that point she can eat truma. So up until the 12 months, right, as long as he's not providing her mizonos, she can't eat truma because maybe the siblings will eat it. But once already the 12 months are up, so then he designates a spot for her to be eating, since now he's paying for it, and at that point he can give her truma because nobody else is going to be around. So based on that, okay, I get it. So the original logic was that after 12 months, since the husband's paying for the mizonos, so he designates a spot, and therefore that, right, there's no issue of the siblings eating the truma, and therefore at that point she can start eating the truma. But then the later rabbi said, you know what? But that's not enough, because what if there ends up being, he ends up finding some mum and ends up calling off the marriage. So then, that could still happen. We want to allow her to eat truma as late as possible to prevent a situation where they end up calling off the marriage and she was eating truma retroactively when she shouldn't have been. Okay, fine. So based on Ula, I understand, right? The Mishnah Rishona assumed that after 12 months, we don't have to worry about the siblings eating because she's going to be eating in her own designated place. The later rabbis decided that, still, if they could still end up calling off the marriage, and that's a concern. So let's push it off to as late as possible till after the chuppah. But according to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, right? Let's read it inside. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, kamais mishum simpon vasrais mishum simpon my benayu. But according to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, he had said that the reason why an arusa does not eat truma when she's engaged is because, well, what if they call off the engagement? But he had said, but after 12 months, right, the Mishnah Rishon had said after 12 months already, right, when he starts paying for mizonos and they're about to get married, they need to get married, he's already paying for mizonos, so then we don't have to be concerned about that they're going to call off the marriage anymore. Then the later rabbi said, you know what, let's push it off even further. Why? Meaning initially, right, we were concerned that we were going to call off the marriage. Once 12 months were up, we're no longer concerned that we're going to call off the marriage. And then they said, you know what, let's push it till after the chuppah. Why? What changed? Out of what concern? If we're saying it's because we're concerned that you're going to call off the marriage, well, why initially did they say that after 12 months it was okay, we're not concerned that they're going to call off the marriage, and now we say actually we are concerned you're going to call off the marriage, let's push it until after the chuppah. Why? What changed? The nafkamina is b'dikas chutz. Ma'asav b'dikas chutz shma b'diko. Ma'asav b'dikas chutz lo shma b'diko. Well, the thing is that there are two different types of bedikas. Okay, I guess for whatever reason this fellow is concerned that maybe he's going to find some kind of physical defect on the woman that he's going to marry, and that will be a showstopper. And initially, up until the chuppah, so his relatives do a bedika, and that's kind of a superficial bedika. And maybe you can argue all bedikas are superficial, but anyways, that was kind of a superficial bedika. And then, but before the chuppah, he is miyachid with her, and he has a proper, in-depth bedika. And at that point, he might call it off. And therefore, initially we assumed that the sort of family member bedika was enough, but then we say no, maybe the family member bedika is not enough. He has to do we rely upon his proper bedika, that is before the chuppah, and only once that is complete can she start eating truma. Alright. Okay, now we get to a new Mishnah that discusses hektish and stuff, and Maise Yodea, Mizonis. It gets a little technical, I guess. So says the Mishnah, Maktish Maise de Ishtare Zo Osavo Cheles. So if a fellow is Maktish de Maise de Ishto, Shnaikis, Shnaikis. Yo, what the heck? Whoa, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, so the husband, he supports his wife and pays for food and stuff like that. And as we're going to kind of see some discussions in the Gemara, in exchange for him providing her with food, any work that she does, so then he can chap that arayin. Now, it's up to a certain amount, up to 5 sellers a week. After that, it's considered extra, as we're going to see soon. Now, he can give her an extra seller that she can use for spending money. And then if he gives her that, then he can also have the extra stuff. Now, okay, so the basic idea is he provides for a mizonis. Anything that she does, he can chap arayin. Now, so says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Maktish Maiseh de Ishto. So if these things that his wife makes, he makes them hektish, he designates them to the Beis HaMikdash, he makes them hektish. So then, Harezo Osav Ocheles, it's irrelevant. It's not actually hektish. The Maiseh Yodea are hers, not his, and she can have her own Maiseh Yodea, and she could sell them, and she can use the money and buy her own stuff. Okay, we're gonna have to, okay, fine. They're hers, we're gonna see in the Gemara why. Hamoser, what's left over, Rameir Omer says Rameir Hekdesh. So if what she produces above and beyond the 5 sellers a week, I think I said after that he gives a seller and then he gets everything. It's a ma'ah, I believe. Okay, anyways, so anything that she produces above and beyond 5 sellers a week, so then Rameir Omer Hekdesh, if he makes that Hekdesh, it is his and he can be Makdish it. Rabbi Yochanan Sander Omer Chulin, Rabbi Yochanan Sander says it's not his, he can't be Makdish it, and it's Chulin. It's not Hekdesh. Okay, now, says the Gemara, Amr Ravuna Amar Rav, says Ravuna in the name of Rav, Yechola Isha Lomar Levaila, a woman can say to her husband, Eini Nizonis, I don't want you to pay for my food, Ve'eni Osa, and therefore I'm going to hold on to my own things, and they're not going to be yours. Kasavar kitakinu rabbanon mizone ikr u'maisi yadayim mishum eva. 1 second. Okay, fine. So again, kasavar, because Rav Huna holds kitakinu rabbanon mizone ikr u'maisi yadayim mishum eva. That basically the rabbi said, look, when this couple gets married, the husband needs to provide her, needs to support her, and he needs to provide her with mizonis. She doesn't have to be concerned about how she's going to support herself. The husband is going to support her, and this is something that we provide for her. And the reason why the stuff that she makes goes to the husband is just because he might be annoyed if he has to if he has to support her and pay for her food. And while she's still kind of got these side hustles that she's making money from. So therefore we say, look, he provides her with food, and anything that she makes, belongs to him. But she could say, it's very nice of you that you're looking out for me and you don't want me to have to be concerned about supporting myself. But I'm not interested in that. I'd rather support myself. And she can do that. She could say, look, I don't need the support. I'm going to support myself. I'm going to hold on to my own stuff, and I'm going to pay for my own food. So she can do that. And therefore, our Mishnah is talking about, so when we say that if he's makdish her stuff, it's not hektish because it doesn't belong to him, it belongs to her. It's because she's doing her own stuff, and she's doing her own stuff and supporting herself, and therefore he can't be makdish her things. Meisve, but we have a contradiction. Tiknu mizonos tachas ma'aseh yadeh. We have a brayso that says punkt fakert. We have a brayso that says the opposite. That in exchange for the fact that he gets her stuff, it's only fair that he pays for her food and supports her, right? If she is making stuff and it goes to him, well, then how is she going to support herself? Obviously, then he's going to have to pay for her stuff. So this brisa seems punkt verkehrt. Seems the opposite, right? That tiknu mizonos tachas masiyadeh. That the main thing is that he can chap around her things, but if he's chapping around her things, so then he's going to have to pay for her food. Ema tiknu masiyadeh tachas mizonos. So flip it around and say, actually, that the reason why he can chap around her things is because he's supporting her, he's paying for her food. Okay, fine, but she can always say that, I don't need your food, I'm going to support myself. Let's say that this supports, let's say that our Mishnah supports Rav Huna. Well, our Mishnah had said that if a husband tries to be makdish his wife's stuff that she makes, it's irrelevant. They're not his. He can't be makdish them. She can continue making her own stuff and working her own jobs and paying for her own food, and that's completely fine. My lab b'nizonis. And we want to say that it's talking about where the husband can afford to be paying for a mizonis, but she's not interested. And she says, look, keep your money. I'm going to work. I'm going to pay for my own food. And so we see that she's able to do that. Lo b'she'en nizonis. No, we can say that our Mishnah is talking about where the husband cannot afford it. And the husband can't afford to pay for her food, and out of necessity, she's working to support herself, and that is why her stuff belongs to her, and her husband cannot be makdish because it's not his, it's hers. But ibishain and nizonis ma'lemeimer. But if it's talking about where the husband cannot afford it, well then it's obvious that she gets her own stuff and it doesn't belong to her husband. Because even according to the opinion that a master can say to an eved, Ase imi, work for me, ve'eni zancha, but I'm not providing you with any food, you're going to have to go beg. Hanemili be'eved kanaini, that's by a Canaanite eved. Deloksiv be imach, that it doesn't say by an eved kanaini imach, with you. But by a Jewish eved where it says with you. So you can't say, work for me and I'm also not paying you food. If you're working for me, so then I'll provide you with food. But if I'm not going to be providing for you with food, well then you're going to be able to, retain the rights to your own stuff. And certainly his wife. And therefore, if he can't afford to be paying for a mizonis and she's working for herself out of necessity, so obviously it's going to belong to her, and obviously the husband cannot be makdish it. Wouldn't it only make sense that the Mishnah has to tell us that the husband cannot be makdish her stuff in a situation where he's able to afford to pay for her mizonis and yet she chooses not to? So we say no. In fact, it is talking about where he cannot afford it, and she's working and supporting herself out of necessity. And still, the chiddush is not for the reisha; it's the seifa. It's tuichalei. The chiddush is about the seifa. The machlokas between Reb Meir and the Chachamim and Reb Yochanan Asandler, that Moser, when it comes to the extras, Reb Meir Omer hektish. Reb Meir says that the husband can be makdishit. Reb Yochanan Asandler Omer chulin, and Reb Yochanan Asandler says that it is chulin. And we're going to explain later on, what exactly that case is, but it's it's for the seifa that we needed to teach the chiddush in the Mishnah. Okay, fine. So the Mishnah is not necessarily a proof for Rav Huna. Now, ufliga de Rish Lakish, and Rav Huna argues on Rish Lakish that Rav Huna had said that if the wife decides that she wants to support herself and keep her own profits, she can. That argues on Rish Lakish, who says that she cannot. To Rish Lakish says, Lo tema time with Reb Meir. Don't say that the reason why Reb Meir says that a fellow could be makdish, the moser, is mishum de kasava or the makdish davar shlo bal olam. Don't say that the reason why Reb Meir says that if he says that whatever my wife will produce above, beyond 5 selas, I'm going to be makdish. Reb Meir says that works. Do not say that is because Reb Meir's opinion is that you can make something that has not yet been created hektish, such as this, the stuff that she produces above and beyond 5 selas. She hasn't yet produced it. And he's saying that he's going to be makdish it, which means that it sounds like he's saying that you can be makdish davar shelo bal olam, that you could make something hektish even though it hasn't been created yet. At the time of the Meir, don't say that. Rather, the reason for a Meir is because he could force her to produce stuff that he can chaparain, It's as though he's saying that your hands, which currently do exist, are hekdesh to God, and he's being makdish that her hands, which do exist right now, and therefore it's not davar shlo bala olam, it's a davar shebala olam, and he's being makdish that. But he didn't say that to her. He didn't say to her that I'm being makdish your hands. He says I'm being makdish the future leftovers. So came in the Shamina the Meir to Amen the Motzi Dvar Vatala. But since we know that Meir's opinion is that a fellow doesn't say things pointlessly, so therefore so if a person doesn't say something pointlessly, so then why would he be making something hektish which doesn't yet exist? So it must be Memela. What he's really intending to say is that he's being makdish her hands, which do currently exist. So what do we see? So part of what Rish Lakish said is that he said that he could force her to produce stuff that he gets. So whereas Rav Huna said that she can choose to keep her own stuff, Rish Lakish says that she cannot say, you know what, I don't want your mazonas, I'm going to produce my own stuff. Rish Lakish says that he can compel her to do stuff that he gets. Now going back to Reb Meir, we had just said that do not say that the reason of Reb Meir is because you could be makdish davar shlo bal olam. Do not say that. I.e., it sounds like Reb Meir holds that you cannot be makdish davar shlo bal olam. That if something does not yet exist, you cannot make it hektish. So ve'atane, but we learn in a brisa, ha'omer le'isha, that if a fellow says to a woman, harei mikudeshes li la'achar she'ez gayer, you will be betrothed to me after I convert to Judaism, or after you convert to Judaism. Now this is something that hasn't yet happened. After I will be freed from being an Eved, or after you will be freed from being a Shifcha, after your husband dies, or if your sister dies, I guess who I'm married to, I'm going to be Mekadesh you, or after your Yavam does Chalitza with you. Reb Meir says that she's Mekadesh. So we see that you're being Mekadesh, Davar Shlo Bal Olam, right? You're being Mekadesh, a situation that's currently not possible, but in the future will be possible, right? After she converts, or whatever it is. So Me'ahi in, Me'holek L'mash Mamina, to which the Gemara says, yeah, from there you can prove that Reb Meir's opinion is that you can be makdish davar shlo bal olam. What Rish Lakish was saying is that from our Mishnah you can't prove it. Sure, right? We learned from the Kiddushin Mishnah that you could be makdish davar shlo bal olam, but from our Mishnah that's not the proof. The proof is from Kiddushin, not from our Mishnah. Friends, that was daf Nun Ches, daf Noyech of Masechet Ksubis. I think it was kind of an interesting daf in some ways. The first part of the daf talked about in Arusa being able to eat Truma after the 12 months. We saw the machlokas between Reb Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva from the Mishnah about can you pay her entirely in Truma or 50% Truma, 50% Chulin. And then Abaye explained that that's dafka if she grew up as a Kohenes, so that she'll know what to do with it when she is a Nida. And then he further said that it's also dafka when she's engaged, that her father can take care of it, but when she's married, so then he would have to give her entirely, he would have to give her 50% Chulin, so that when she's a Nida, she has Chulin to eat. We saw a few different opinions about exactly how to provide this chulin versus truma. And then we got to a new Mishnah where we talked about a shtickle about hekdesh. We saw machlokas between Rav Huna and Rish Lakish, which was interesting about, how does mizonis work? Is mizonis that we're doing her a favor? She can always say, look, I don't want you to support me. I don't want your favor. I'm going to do my own work. I'm going to support myself. Or is it like Rish Lakish says that she can't say that and he can compel her to do to work and he would get that stuff. And then we also saw that Reb Meir's opinion is that a fellow can be makdish, something that has not yet been created, based on the fact that he could be mekadesh a woman, even right, based on the fact that in the future she will convert, or he will convert, or other things that haven't yet happened. Friends, that was the Nun Ches of Masechet Ksubis. Hope you enjoyed and experience life through the prism of babbling. Peace out, friends.